Hey, it's Carrie.
And Ashley.
We welcome you to the Self Care Cafe. We are both health professionals and moms and nature lovers and food lovers and love helping women get over dieting and just start living. We think that talking about bodies and perfect bodies and dieting is just boring.
Did we put you to sleep there, Carrie?
Yes. So if you are ready to ditch dieting and get to living and talk about more important things, then you are in the right place. We don't put shame and guilt on the menu here. You don't even have to tip us.
Nope.
Come hang with us. The advice is free. We want to have a bunch of girlfriends to just hang out with and get real with, and it's time to start living, ladies. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Carrie.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great.
Awesome. What's on the menu this week?
Well, we thought we would talk today about behaviors that appear healthy on the outside, but ultimately are not really healthy or can lead to harm,
Yeah,
either mentally or physically.
it's a great topic. I love this one because, and I think I probably say it a lot. So if you've heard me say it, great. But I think a lot of these things that we're going to talk about are very what we call normalized, which means that a lot of people do them despite the fact that they're actually, like Carrie was saying, unhealthy or can cause harm either now or in the long run.
Right. Right. Yeah. And you're going to see like all of these things are on social media and are made to look like this is a great thing to do. But we're going to give another side of it of why maybe it's not so great to
Yeah.
do. And
And
just
I
give you some food for thought to think about, right?
Yeah, food for thought.
No pun intended.
Never. Yeah, and I like this topic too because it's really hard to weed out what is like quote unquote good information for health and nutrition because of all of the noise that's out there around it. Right? Like anybody can tell anybody some health, nutrition, and fitness information. And should we listen to them? Or is what they're saying a good idea? And in one of our previous episodes, I think it's called How to Spot Diets in Disguise, we talk a little bit more about like trying to watch out for different um, language and what that actually means. So these are some other things that don't necessarily fall under like signing up for a plan or program or whatever, but it's just like the mindset pieces of it because some of them, like Carrie said, kind of may appear to be healthy and they're very normalized and a lot of people do them. And so we don't really understand the risk we're taking when we start doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the governing bodies, I want to say it was the CDC, but do not quote me on that, just came out with a warning about these fitness influencers, for example,
Mm,
on social media and their credentials.
yeah.
A lot of them don't have any.
Right.
Uh, so it's important to, and it doesn't necessarily mean that someone who doesn't have, the letters after their name or a specific certification that they don't know what they're talking about, but you're going to get more science-based, research-based, evidence-based information from someone who does.
Right. And it's the same for nutrition. Like
Absolutely.
anyone can give out nutrition information because we all eat, right? So
Right.
everyone has personal experience with nutrition. And a lot of times people are just putting out like what worked for themselves
Right.
or, or really like what only worked for them for a short amount of time. um, we'll talk about that another time probably. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're going to tackle today. And just to generalize like why these things aren't a good idea is we've talked about this a little bit already in some of the other episodes, but they all really rely on external cues about what to do with nutrition or fitness or health. or any piece of that. And it's
Right.
not listening to your body, which is what we're all about here. Um, and yeah, Carrie, anything to add about
I
that
don't
before
think
we
so.
jump into it?
Jump in. We've got a whole list, so are you
Yeah,
ready?
we do. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh
Yeah,
man, there's not an
and
even 10.
we had to cut. Well, we'll probably come up with a 10th as we're talking.
That's right. So 9-ish.
Because really, there's more, but we wanted to kind of just so that you get an idea, and again, start noticing like where maybe you are using these external cues instead of listening to your body and what it's trying to tell you.
Yeah, and we don't want to keep you on here for 3 hours.
Right. I
All
mean,
right.
we'd love to, but
Yes, we would, but we know you're
you might
busy.
not want to listen to us that long. So the first one is tracking everything, right? And
Yeah.
there are apps for this that so many of us have or have had in the past, that track our calories, what we've eaten, macros,
You
et
name
cetera,
it.
et cetera. Right, right. How many calories we took in, how many calories we burned,
Yep.
right? That's a big one.
Yep.
And what kind of mindset does that create?
Oh, I feel like anytime humans have data, we just get in this like obsessive zone with it and we create this like pass fail situation. So let's say it's calories, and I'm not really going to say a specific number, but let's just say um, your fitness app or your food logging app or whatever. First of all, you're putting in probably like your metrics, like your height and weight, and then they're telling you your goal to begin with. Like it's not even your own goal most of the time. So that's one, not helpful because we're not machines. We're all different. And we've talked about that before, but once we have this number, we have this idea that like we can't go over it and we try really hard not to. And so that changes our entire outlook on food and what we're eating, and we make our decisions based on those numbers. And if we go over, then we're internalizing that like you couldn't do it kind of mindset. What's wrong with you? Um, that
Well,
shame,
and
guilt.
it reduces food to a number,
Right.
eh, right? And so I remember someone once was on Weight Watchers, the point system. She figured out how many donuts and pieces of cheesecake, and for this was for real, that she could eat within those points.
Hmm.
Pretty sure if you subsisted on those, you're not going to get the nutrition that you need.
Right. Oh, so it was like her daily amount of points, but only in donuts and cheesecake?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
so there wasn't
Or
other
that type of
okay.
food. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So she met her points, but is she meeting her nutrition?
Right.
She getting all the nutrients that she needs
Right.
in it.
Because we try to hack the system, right? Because ultimately it's restriction.
Yep.
So ultimately we're going to be like, well, we want the higher calorie stuff because it tastes good and it's that forbidden fruit mindset like we've talked about on here in the past. So we're going to find a way to do it. And hacking the system to just subside off of donuts and cheesecake, like Carrie said, is meeting your points and your calories. But is that really your goal? Like, what is your goal? And I think that is what it boils down to. Like, sometimes it is important to track things. Um, like if you're running marathons or if you're training for something, yes, it's kind of important to track your progress so that you're prepared for your race. And I'll let Carrie talk more about that because she's a fitness pro. But um, as far as nutrition goes, I feel like some medical conditions, we can definitely track things like trying to keep track of carbohydrates for people with diabetes and blood sugar. But we also don't have to be so strict and rigid about it. There's room for flexibility, even with all of those goals.
Right. Well, and think about it, like that reducing food down to a number, but we do it to ourselves too by constantly weighing ourselves. We reduce ourselves down to a number. So it's just that it's that pass fail, that obsession with the pass fail,
Yep.
that we get into. And what a in my opinion, a horrible way to live if you're constantly just reducing everything down to a number.
Mhm. It takes the
Just
joy
like
out of it.
it totally
And
does.
I think most of the points we're gonna touch on today would be true for that too. Like it all of
Yes.
it takes the joy out of it. Um, because it takes away your body signals. Like we said, they're all external cues. And when we're relying on external cues, we're more focused about quote unquote, are we doing it right?
Right. Exactly. And there's not one way to do it right with
Right.
when it comes to eating and exercise you know, there's some guidelines, some general guidelines, sleep and stress and stuff, but there's not one solution to all of it at all. And
Exactly.
it drives me crazy. That is one thing I'm going to just say. It drives me bonkers how we reduce things down to a number. It's like I'm not a numbers girl. And maybe, because um I have recovered from an eating disorder and used to reduce things to numbers. I just see the damage that it can do.
Yeah.
Um
And from my perspective too, like I'm a dietitian and so everyone probably thinks that like I know how many calories I eat in a day. I know how many calories are in everything and it's like that couldn't be further from the truth. I don't care. And
Right.
I honestly have no idea. Like if I sat and thought about it, I could probably come up with like a ballpark, but it is not something that I even consider or think about at meals,
Right.
snacks, or anything.
Right.
All right,
Awesome.
next one.
Number 2,
Uh,
intentional weight loss.
yes, so intentional
Why?
weight loss. It
Why?
it puts us into that diet cycle, right? So like we're restricting something and then we're feeling deprived and then we're having all these feelings and then we're going to have whatever we're restricting anyways. And then we're going to have guilt and shame about that and then it starts all over again.
Right. Right. And research shows that this diet cycling, also known as yo-yo dieting,
Mhm.
over time you gain the weight and then some. So that is true. Like you you go on this diet, you might lose some weight, but then because it's so restrictive, you gain the weight back because you get tired of and your body's like, come on, give me what I need here,
Right.
right? So then you overdo it and then you gain more weight back and then you go on the next diet and that cycle continues. And that is why people see their weights gradually creep up over the years.
Mhm.
And then and again, it's all based on those external cues. You're letting a diet tell you what you should eat. And eventually you do give into your internal cues because your body's like, we need more here,
Yeah. Our
right?
bodies, that's what our bodies are supposed to do. Like
They're so smart.
we're trying to we're trying to trick them or like manipulate them into doing something it doesn't want to do and it doesn't know the difference. Like our survival mode, our bodies have a pretty smallish range of where it wants to hang out as far as weight and body size. And when we
Yep.
try to change that, it fights us back pretty hard and our body's probably going to win most of the times.
Right, right. Which I actually just thought of another one,
Oh,
which is
good. We can
related,
make it an even 10.
but daily weighing, right? We do have
Yeah.
one on eight, but for a different reason. But daily weighing to try to make sure you're staying for accountability, right?
Hmm.
That s- again, people think that that's healthy, but it takes away all that body trust. It's another external cue.
Hmm.
It takes away your body trust. We've discussed why you should smash your scale in previous episodes. So if you haven't listened to that, I can't remember which one it is. Ashley probably knows.
Um,
But you can go and look at it, right? The smash your
7
scale.
and 8, I think.
Okay. And so we explain in those why weighing yourself can be more harmful than
Yeah.
good.
And it kind of fits into the tracking everything, that number piece.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
kind
This is all related, right?
yes,
Just like
yeah.
we talk about how all the areas of our lives are related. Um, this same.
Yeah.
Uh,
And just a couple more points on the intentional weight loss one is when we repeat this cycle over and over and over again, one, if our weight keeps creeping up, it's like, well, why am I doing this? And how come I couldn't stick with it, right? So it erodes like our self-trust,
Mhm.
and that doesn't help our mental health. And not to
Right.
mention, dieting is usually really bad nutrition.
Right.
Like, if we're restricting stuff, then we're missing out on stuff.
Yeah, it's really difficult to get all the nutrients that you need in a much smaller window of
Right.
calories.
Right, because nutrition isn't just about calories. It's about a
Right.
lot of other things too.
Absolutely. So the next one would be, which is very big or in the fitness industry, is clean eating.
Mhm. And actually, we didn't really talk about this and what we were gonna talk about, but, um, there's actually kind of, um, a subset of an eating disorder called orthorexia, um,
Yes.
and orthorexia is basically, like, the obsession with only eating healthy food and, like, not eating anything else. Um,
Right.
it's very rigid, it's very restrictive, very obsessive, and so while the foods that you're eating aren't necessarily unhealthy, the mindset is what is unhealthy about it because
Right.
it
So
doesn't leave room.
why don't you define what clean eating actually
Oh, yeah,
is?
so clean eating is basically, like, not eating any processed foods. A lot of times, different types of food groups are left out, ones that might be, construed in social media as quote unquote inflammatory, which, side note, there is not actually great evidence to show that. But things like dairy might be cut out, or things like gluten might be cut out. Sugars probably definitely cut out. Um, and focusing only on like whole
Whole,
foods like fruits and vegetables, whole grains, really lean proteins, um, things like
which
that.
again, as Ashley said, in and of themselves, those foods are awesome, right? Like
Right.
they're nutritious
If your body
foods
can tolerate them.
if your body can tolerate them, yes. And but it's really that mindset that is like you become obsessed with that is the only food you can eat.
Mhm.
Any other food will make you sick. Kind like some of them take that attitude, like it's gonna make you sick. It is orthorexia is real. It's another eating disorder, and so that that obsession with clean eating is is also harmful, like
Yeah.
all the rest of this.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's those external cues because you're only allowing yourself certain foods and it's very rigid and it's not flexible at all, which is what is really important about nutrition, right? Like variety and flexibility and patterns are really the key things to nutrition. And you're not kind of getting most of that.
Right. And the thing to keep in mind too is that on social media or commercials and advertisements, all of these things are packaged in this beautiful, these beautiful stock photos and, photographs and just, tied with a beautiful bow. They make it look appealing, but to practice these things long term is can really be harmful to
Yeah.
you.
Especially if it's like some people even take it further where it's like they don't necessarily maybe eat even cooked vegetables or fruits or whatever,
Bravo.
raw only, or do they consider frozen veggies to be processed foods? And let me tell you, my life would be so much more chaotic if I only ate fresh fruits and vegetables. Like frozen veggies are so helpful because
Yes.
you're still getting them. It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter what form they're in.
Yeah. I way back when I used to, beans, which now I can't eat many of them anyway, but I used to do the dried beans because I thought that
Mm,
that had to be better than the canned.
right.
So much more work and so much more
So
time.
much work. Yes.
So, and half the time they would I don't know. I remember this one with kidney beans and they were just hard. I'm like, why did I do this? Like just
Yeah,
you canned beans.
exactly.
Um, yeah, there's
Although they are budget savers, so again, it depends on how everything fits in for you, or if you have the time, or if you prefer them that way, like, honestly and truthfully, not because you think you have to.
right, right. Amen.
Yeah, so what number are we
All
on?
right.
1, 2, 3, we're on number 4. Well,
4. Get that?
I'll let you take this one, Carrie, because it's about exercise.
Ex- Exercising to burn calories. As Ashley likes to say, you are not a math equation,
Yeah.
right?
If you put something in and then you take the same amount out, we're not going to equal 0.
Right. Wait, when I was in college for my undergraduate work, um, at so 30 years, 35 years ago, um, the calories in, calories out was a big that that's what we were taught. But my mind, the way it works, I was always like, yeah, but what about, right? And thankfully over time, so it has caught up some,
Hmm.
but there are still things that the calories in, calories out is still a big thing. Just eat less and move more, right? It's still like,
And it's like, but how is my body supposed to be supported if I'm eating the same amount of calories as I'm putting out?
right. Like, and you brought that up. Calories, you don't need to be at zero, like a
Right.
zero, uh, what would it be called? Um, I don't know. I'm not an accountant, but
I know
like
what you're
when
saying,
it
but I
all
can't think of it
comes
either.
out to zero, you zero out at the end, right? Like it's supposed
Right.
to be. But people that get super obsessed with it, that is, they try to do that. And listen, like the amount of calories in food, it's an estimate for one thing,
Hmm.
right? Because you're not going to get exactly the amount.
No.
Uh,
And even the nutrition facts labels, like, they're not exact, like Carrie said. Like, they're pretty close because their foods are analyzed in labs and all of that, but they're not like precise.
Yeah, and the number of calories you burn with exercise, again,
Same.
also not. So if you're on that treadmill or elliptical or whatever at the gym, or you're putting into your fitness app how far you walked or whatever, there are so many different components
Yep.
that determine how many calories you actually
Now
burned.
that is definitely a math equation, but it's not truthful to what's actually happening in your body. And quick side
Right.
note, so I'm not sure if anybody's following me on social media, but
Damn.
yeah, I got a Peloton a couple of months ago and have been using it here and there. And I've been sharing a little bit about how that is going or not so much. But anyways, um, I was really bummed out to see that it's just like every other piece of exercise equipment that shows you how many calories are being burned or how many you've burned at the end or whatever. And I stuck a sticky note over it because I was like, I don't
Yeah,
care. Like, this is not helpful at all.
right. And if you know that, let's say you've worked hard to get out of that mindset, it is still very easy, even if you work your way out of it, to fall right back into it when you start to, that's so I think that's brilliant to just cover it up.
Yeah.
Uh, the other thing too is on exercise equipment, I know that I've seen your fat burning heart
Mm.
rate
Oh,
zone,
yeah. Yeah.
right?
Like the intensity level you need to be at.
Yeah. Right. So there is a seed of truth to that. However, when you are going more vigorously and burning more, like there's always like these seeds of truth, but there's so much misleading in the industry,
Yeah.
because if you're exercising more vigorously, you're going to burn more overall calories, which means you're also going to burn more like it just, but even that is like, it's not like it's calculated perfectly in your body, like it.
Right.
Again, don't get obsessed with those things.
Right.
Again, it takes all the joy out of moving.
That's what I was going to ask you, Carrie. Like, when we think like this, what happens?
That's exactly what happens. Like, you
Yeah.
don't enjoy it. All of you listening to this, if you're like, I freaking hate exercising, I hate it, but you do it, I would ask you why. Why are you doing it? Because when you shift your mindset and you're not doing it to burn calories or to attempt to get that six pack, which genetically most people cannot get. Um, if your reasons why you're doing it are anything like that externally to change your body, then you probably are going to hate it.
Yeah.
And you're probably doing activities just for that reason, not things that you actually enjoy.
Right. And not to mention, like we said, you need calories.
Yes.
You need to eat, you deserve to eat. And so feeling like we can't have calories sitting around in our body or whatever is just not helpful. It's not science. It's not how our bodies work.
Right. Right. Get to know your body.
That's right. That's right. And find something that you like to do for activity, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There is chances are there's something. And our bodies are made to move, and there are a lot of health benefits
Yep.
to moving our bodies. So finding activities that you enjoy makes all the difference.
It does. All
What's
right.
the next one, Ash?
Number 5 is weighing yourself to determine how much food and or exercise to do or eat or whatever that day.
Hmm.
And it's similar to what we were just talking about because, again, we're not that math equation. So if
Yeah.
we're not happy with the number on the scale, we might restrict our calories more or whatever we're doing for our food. And then we might end up over exercising, um, even if we're feeling miserable or even, no matter what. That's the piece that's really important too is if we're saying, I have to, I don't know, run on the treadmill for X amount of minutes to burn this many calories because the scale was telling me this number and I don't want it to be that number. Um, that is just
Or
misery.
here's a great one. How many times during the holidays, let's say Thanksgiving, do you see beforehand? Oh, if you eat the slice of apple pie, here's how many miles or how long you have to go, right?
Yep.
To burn that off.
Yeah, it drives me insane.
Ugh,
And not to mention just the holiday, but because you brought it up, it's one day. You're supposed to enjoy yourself and
That's
you're supposed to eat what you want. And the topic of Thanksgiving is just a whole nother thing anyways, like the base of the holiday and everything. But anyways, um, we're supposed to enjoy our food. We're supposed to have the foods that we like. And here's another thing about Thanksgiving, just to throw it out there. Who says you can't have that stuff any other time of the year?
right, right. Well, and isn't the point also to enjoy the company that you're with?
Yes,
Now, I
exactly.
realize sometimes there are people around your table that you would rather not have there.
Right,
Um, but and also the holidays, a lot of times certain holidays are the time that only certain dishes are made.
right,
Like you said, who's to say that you can't make it? But a lot of times family traditions,
right.
with uh it's just a time when only certain dishes are made,
Yeah,
you have a certain an aunt that only makes that dish a certain time and
right.
enjoy it. Like
Yeah,
no, you're not going to get it again.
right. But
Uh
that's the part that I think a lot of people struggle with. Like, I feel out of control around it because I know that I'm not going to get it all the time. So I feel like I need
yeah,
to eat it
that's true.
all. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Anyways, that's another
And
tangent.
right, 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 right. But which tapping into, to or can I take a slice of that home with me?
Right.
Some different solutions.
Yes.
Yeah, or ask Aunt Betty to make it, you know, at another time also for you. Hey, I'll
Right.
take one of those when, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but yes, that isn't a whole other topic. You're right.
All right. Anything else about the weighing
Oh,
yourself to determine how much food or exercise to do?
I love this next one.
Okay. What is it?
What you eat during a certain time period. For
Mm,
example,
mm,
how often do we hear, do not eat after 7 p.m.?
so many times. And you know
Mm,
what? There's no evidence to support that at all. Your body, like we said, your body doesn't like turn off at the end of the day, and then it can't process food anymore. Your body's
right.
always on, whether we're sleeping or not. And I
Right.
think,
You are always burning calories no
right,
matter what you're doing.
and
Um,
some people do feel better if they don't eat late because sometimes if we're eating really big meals right before we go to sleep, it can feel heavy in your belly. But that would be true no matter what. It just makes it hard for you to sleep. So it's just
Right, well, and if you have,
or like
sleep apnea or gastric reflux or anything
yeah,
like that, it's probably wise not to eat a large meal right before
right.
bed.
But that's
But again,
individual. Yeah.
that's getting to know your body, right, and what works for you.
Exactly. So yeah. And then um also if you have that rule for yourself and you are hungry, basically this one is talking about like ignoring your hunger cues. That's what it boils down to. And if you're hungry past 7 but you have that rule for yourself and you get hungrier and hungrier and hungrier as the night goes on and you can't sleep, well, you're probably going to end up eating at some point, and it might even result in like a binge eating episode, and the guilt and shame spiral happens with that. So it would have been better to honor your hunger when it happened.
Yeah. Or a lot of times we're hungry in the evening like that because we haven't eaten enough during the day.
Which
Or
is
maybe
yeah.
you're doing intermittent fasting and you only have that window of time
Mhm.
and your body's just like, uh, yeah, one, you didn't give me enough during that window.
Yeah.
Uh, and so now I'm hungry again. Um, so it's again, it all comes back down to noticing your cues, getting to know your body, listening to your body. Um, Sometimes I feel like a broken
That's
record.
okay. That's okay. And yeah, not ignoring your hunger, like your cues are there for a reason.
Mhm. Right, exactly. So tell me, Ashley, because you came up with this one,
Okay.
tricking your body with coffee, low calorie foods, smoking, gum, etc.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of people in client sessions on social media all over the place trying to like suppress your appetite basically so you don't feel hungry.
Drink a glass of water.
Yeah, that's another good one. Thanks for bringing that one in. Um so it's true that some of those substances do curb your appetite, but your body is smarter than you and it's going to figure out what you did and it's going to be hungrier at some point. So again, it kind of ties into the one we just talked about where if you're drinking coffee all day and you're eating really low calorie food all day and then you get home, and I see this all the time. Like this is probably one of the most common struggles people have around this kind of idea is like not eating enough during the day because that's what they think they quote unquote should be doing.
Yep.
And then they get home and they are starving and they're confused because they ate during the day, they did what they were, quote, unquote, "supposed to be doing," as far as they were concerned, but your body does know how much food it needs, and it knows that you didn't give it enough.
Right. It's like we try to trick our biology, right?
Right. We kind of
So
try to manipulate it all the time.
right, right. And it typically our biology wins.
Yeah, and it's so hard because we're sent all this messaging from everywhere that if you, quote, unquote, "just do this," um, you'll have this, whatever it is, you'll have perfect
Make
health
it
or
sound very simple.
yeah, and it's not. And that's what is so frustrating because we don't know what else to do because that's the messaging we've always heard. And we do it and then it doesn't work for us. So we think something's wrong with us.
Right. Right. It's not us. It's the diet. It's the things that we try to do to trick our bodies.
Yep. Or change our
Right.
body or,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's
all
a good
right.
one.
Yeah, I'll take the next one too. So
So
cutting out entire food groups. And we mentioned this a little bit with the one about clean eating, but if you're cutting out entire food groups, and it depends on why, right? Like if you have food allergies or food sensitivities, obviously they bother you, and that's probably a good idea for you.
but that's part of the process, right? Is
Right,
figuring out that.
exactly. Because when you cut out entire food groups, you're cutting out entire nutrient groups because each
Right.
food group has different nutrition in it. Like meats and things like that have a lot of protein, and fruits and veggies have a lot of fiber and vitamins and minerals, and carbohydrates have a lot of B vitamins, and the list goes on and on. So if we're cutting an entire food group out, we're probably missing out on a lot of that nutrition. And so if you're doing it for allergies or sensitivities, it's really important to figure out how to get that nutrition back in with other things. But when we're doing it on a diet, we typically don't take the time to figure that out. And so if we're cutting out food groups, we're probably lacking in nutrition. We're not getting enough variety.
Yeah. Like when the low carb craze started with some of these name brand diets, I just scratched my head. I'm like, so you're not allowed to eat apples and carrots?
Right.
Like, it just doesn't make sense. Those are,
Right.
again, unless, like Ashley said, unless you have a true, like a sensitivity or an allergy to them, they're very nutritious foods. Um, but it was their carb content, which is also kind of silly because they also have fiber. Um,
So much other stuff.
yeah, it never made sense to me.
Yeah. There's a red flag we should have talked about in one of our other episodes. Anytime fruits and vegetables are restricted, run the other way.
Yeah. Unless, well, like we said, with sensitivities,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Like, I have to watch
Right.
FODMAPs.
Mhm.
But it's also, again, figuring out, because sometimes it's just the amount, like
Right.
overload on certain fruits and vegetables, but I can have a
Mhm.
little bit. But has been my journey with figuring that out also, with
Exactly.
what works.
So you've been listening to your body.
Listening. Oh, sometimes it shouts out loud, loud and clear.
Yeah, sometimes it does,
If you know what I
sometimes it
need.
doesn't.
Oh,
All right, Carrie, you take
um,
the last one.
all right. The last one that we have is working out every day, like working out hard every day. The reason this is not a good idea and is not healthy for your body is it requires recovery time. It requires rest. When you work out hard and you're working muscles that you're not used to working, or even if you are, but you're, progressively giving it more um, resistance, more intensity, you're actually breaking down muscle fibers during that time, during the workout. And because you're breaking them down, they need recovery time to rebuild and repair. So if you are working out hard every day, you are probably predisposing yourself to injuries, exhaustion, burnout, and overtraining. So whether you are training for some race or competition, or you're just, exercising for yourself, your body it needs recovery time.
Right, and Carrie, doesn't taking rest actually help your performance in the long run?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you're not resting your muscles, you're not giving it that time. You're not giving them time to recover and repair themselves. And because that's how they also build strength and size, is during that recovery time. So if you're not ever giving it that time to do that, you're actually could lose strength.
Right, so you're basically not getting the benefits from your hard workouts.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So, Carrie, does that mean, like, so you said hard intensity, so that means I can still walk my dog every day, right? Okay,
Yes.
just
Yes.
checking.
You can walk that maple girl.
Good, because she needs it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Anything
Anything
else?
else? Sometimes we share a brain.
Yes. Yeah, I think that we covered a lot,
Yeah.
as usual, and we wanna hear from you, like,
Mhm.
is there something that you're doing that you're wondering, like, is this a good idea? Or maybe some of the things we mentioned is something that you're doing? There's definitely other ways to take care of yourself, to, like, focus on your nutrition and nourishment, focus on your fitness. Like Carrie said too earlier, sleep and stress are an important part of our health also.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many other things we can get into.
Yes.
What are you listening to for music?
Mm,
Or, what are you filling your brain with? That could be harmful too, although some of it um, might not be externally necessarily healthy. But um, I'm sure that there's more stuff too. But what it really all comes back around to is just taking responsibility for your body and your brain, and listening to it, getting to know it. What does your body need? Not based off what someone else said works for them. um or this constant cycle of dieting and beating our bodies up
mhm,
through obsessive exercise and things like that.
definitely. Great. Well, that was a great conversation.
Yes,
Great.
we
Well, we'll
went
see.
through this fairly quickly too, I
Yes,
think.
we were not we were not expecting that. We thought we were gonna be on for quite a while today.
Because you know us and our tangents.
Yes. We had a few, but not too bad.
Yep. We done good.
That's right. Awesome. So, and if you want to chat with us or whatever, you can find us on some different places. So we're on Facebook at Self Care Cafe. We have a free Facebook group. Um, we're on Instagram at Self Care Cafe, all one word, _official. We're on Patreon, and all the links to everything are in our show notes. And don't forget to go grab your free hunger blueprint also. There's a link for that down below, and there's an episode to listen to about what that is if you want to do that. Yeah,
Awesome.
great. Well, we'll see you next time, Carrie.
Love you, latte.
Love you, latte.